Welcome. This is Jane Turner with Whistleblower of the Week. And today we have on somebody who is so special. I adore this man. I respect him. He has integrity. His name is Stephen Kohn from the law office of Kohn and Colapinto, which is a Washington, D.C. based international whistleblower rights law firm specializing in anti-corruption and whistleblower law. He has represented whistleblowers whose names you will all know and acknowledge. But today, we have him on because something incredible is happening. Stephen, welcome. I just am delighted to have you on because the world of whistleblowing is really looking at some fractures. And I want to talk about one particular person, Hampton Dellinger, who is the Office of Special Counsel. And you and I know him because he came to National Whistleblower Day. And he was so impressive. And he was an advocate for whistleblowers. And I know you thought highly of him too. You've worked with him, correct?
Hampton, the good man, trying to do right now a great job in an impossible situation. But before we get into him, I just want to say, Jane, thank you for having me on. You're a whistleblower. You won 2 cases, like
Yes.
most people barely get through one. She was 25-year veteran of the FBI. She knows what federal employees go through. She knows. Hampton,
I do.
yeah.
And they're upset. They're upset. I've had calls, Stephen, from whistleblowers who are really concerned about what is happening to whistleblower rights, what's happening to the Office of Special Counsel, and what they should do if they have some information. But tell us now, what does the Office of Special Counsel do, and who is Special Counsel Dellinger?
So in 1978, the first ever whistleblower office was created by Congress, signed by the president, and that's known as the Office of Special Counsel. By law, any federal employee from any agency can make a confidential disclosure of violations of law, threats to the public health and safety, waste, fraud, and abuse. And because the ability of this office to accept such important allegations, knowing that those coming forward are afraid of being fired, yet the need to get their information is compelling, Congress did something extraordinary. They said this person serves for a 5-year term. They made 5 years, so it always crosses over from one administration to another for independence. And then they said, the president cannot fire this person except for documented cause like abuse of office, violations of law. They gave this person extraordinary job protection. Why? They're in the middle of it. They're getting the allegations from the whistleblowers, and they have to confront the agencies that are violating the law. They're in the middle of a storm. And unless the captain of that ship can function, the whole system collapses.
Why was he fired, Stephen?
Yeah.
Why was he fired?
Just before we get to that, the Special Counsel is there, the captain at the pivot. Why was he fired? No reason given. Good morning, Mr. Dellinger. You're fired. Well, guess what? That was a violation of law, period. The law is clear. The violation is clear. So I can tell you what's going on now and why this is such a big deal and a confrontation, but Jane, shoot.
Okay, well, you know, we've met the man. He's wonderful. He got fired, which I can't understand. And other whistleblowers are very upset about. And why should we care about his termination? What's the impact on federal whistleblowers?
So first off, we met Hampton when he came before he was confirmed, came to the office here. And he told us to our face that he was going to be nonpartisan. He's going to hold everyone accountable. He was 100% committed to the office. He was also committed to National Whistleblower Day, celebrating whistleblowers, celebrating their contribution.
Yes.
He took the office. He met with all the representative groups and lawyers from whistleblowers. He heard their concerns. He made the office better. And then he started doing cases. And his first big cases were people who had blown the whistle on the Biden administration. And he protected those whistleblowers. He prevented them from being fired. He was nonpartisan. I know the cases he was working on. He was doing a good job, a fair job, the job Congress intended him to do. One day he wakes up and gets an email, "You're fired." Now,
Why would they fire somebody that fair, that full of integrity, and who is out there helping whistleblowers, showed up at National Whistleblower Day? Why would they fire somebody like that?
it's obvious. He is the centerpiece of the entire federal whistleblower protection laws. He's at the center of it. He's at the center of where you can make a safe disclosure. And his job is also to protect those who do. So you knock him off. You knock off all whistleblower rights in practice across the United States of America. One target, one hit, catastrophe.
So, what did he do, Stephen, when he got this short message telling him he was out, which is
Well,
quite rude, I have to say.
yes. I mean, come on. Let's put it this way. He decided to do the right thing. He could have just taken it and walked home.
Mm-hmm.
He decided to fight. He decided to go to court and resist. And ultimately, his case will set the national precedent forever as to whether the federal government can have an independent office for whistleblowers or not. Because the current administration they admit the law is the law. They admit they have violated the law. So their only argument is that it's unconstitutional. Meaning if they win, if the White House wins, there will be no independent authority ever, because whatever law Congress passes under the precedent that the current administration wants is that the president will be able to overrule it, fire at will, and destroy whistleblower rights at the blink of an eye. And there'll be no turning back. Because if it's a constitutional power, it's over. Game over for federal whistleblowers.
Stephen, you couldn't have come up with worse news, I'll tell you. But where's he at in this fight? Did something happen this morning with his
Sure.
lawsuit? And could you tell us what it was?
Yes. So when he got his termination notice, he got some very good lawyers who are doing an excellent job in briefing. We've read their briefs, doing a fantastic job. And they went straight to court for what's known as a temporary restraining order. Essentially, if what someone is doing looks flagrantly illegal, and it will cause irreparable harm, because this will have a chilling effect on every single federal employee who witnesses violations of law, and do they have the courage and the fortitude to come forward? Every one of them will be chilled. So you can go to the judge and get an emergency order, which is what he got. The judge granted him that emergency relief. The current administration appealed it to the appeals court, lost. appealed it to the Supreme Court, lost. These appeals have happened within days, but the only issue currently that was litigated is, did the court have the ability to issue this emergency stay?
Okay.
Now they're back in court for the much more important order, which is what is known as a preliminary injunction. If that is granted, the special counsel gets to stay on the job for the duration of the litigation over this issue, which could take years.
So what happened? So what happened, Stephen? Tell
We're
us.
waiting for the court to rule now. The hearing was this morning. We anticipated that the court would rule from the bench. The judge wanted the parties to agree to extend the time limit on the temporary order to give her more time to review the case. That was not agreed to. They would have to have agreed to it. So now she will be issuing a preliminary injunction probably today or tomorrow. We will keep you posted. There'll be alerts on Whistleblower Network News, then the National Whistleblower Center at whistleblowers.org. We'll immediately post the decision and announce what happened. At the hearing, the judge was very favorable to Mr. Dellinger, but one never knows. It's tremendous political pressure. But the second thing is, once she issues this, special counsel will remain in the job. But the administration is expected to appeal it to the appeals court and then to the Supreme Court. So guess what? This case inevitably, almost guaranteed, will go to the United States Supreme Court, and they will decide whether all federal whistleblowers and all federal employees can go to an independent office to raise concerns confidentially. And if the court rules for the White House, that right is destroyed. And every single whistleblower is at risk of having their identity revealed, their allegations smeared, and being fired. That is what is at stake here. We are at a turning point because no one, not one administration since 1978, has ever sought to destroy the Office of Special Counsel. We're in new ground.
Boy, you're not a kidding. And are you taking any odds on which way the Supreme Court is going to go?
Justice does not sleep forever. Our Constitution is an incredible human rights document. It asserts the power of the people. It asserts a division of government. It put limits on the king and wiped out nobility. Our Constitution is an incredible, as Frederick Douglass said, even in the time of slavery, that this is an incredible human rights document, if only it was being followed. So if the Supreme Court and the lower courts follow the Constitution, Hampton Dellinger will win. If there is justice, it will be 9-0.
So what, I've got a group of whistleblowers over here whose hair is on fire, and we've got all these ordinary people who listen in. How or what can they do to help this? I mean, we just cannot allow this to happen. This is critical.
This is critical. This is one of the worst setbacks for whistleblower rights ever.
And people have worked so hard for the Office of Special Counsel.
Yeah.
People have worked so hard to be able to bring whistleblowers outside their agency so they don't get trampled to death and have a fair arbitrator. So this would just be stunning and critically, it's an end game, isn't it? It's an end game.
Yeah, it is an end game. So what can people do?
Right.
Organize, but call if you go to whistleblowers.org, you'll see information on the website. Go to Whistleblowers Network News. There'll be information about sending emails, taking action. I would strongly urge and hope people donate to the National Whistleblower Center so it can continue its efforts. But also call your senators and congressmen. Flood them. They will respond to pressure. No matter how bad it looks, we are still a democracy and there's still citizen action. And unless our members of Congress hear loudly, clearly, and massively that people actually care about whistleblower rights, they care about the ability of people to hold their government accountable. They need to hear that, because if they don't, that silence is essentially a vote to destroy democracy. Now is not the time for silence. It cannot be. The voices have to be loud and clear. The pressure has to be put on. The administration has to back off. They should not appeal these decisions. They should back off. Let the whistleblower program exist like it was intended to exist. Back off. And if a member of Congress does not join in this fight, then you need to remember that and remind them. And in 2 years from now at that election, you need to hold people accountable. If they let the worst disaster for whistleblower rights in 50 years occur, a permanent damage that will not be curable, if they sit back and let that happen, it is time for voices to be heard. You have to take action on this. I can't understate how important this is.
You're absolutely correct, Stephen. And you've been in this business for over 40 years. So you know danger when it happens, and you know when whistleblowers are in trouble. Let me ask you this, though. How long will it take for this case to get to the Supreme Court? Right? Did they give him 45 days, or did they give him until they decide? Or he's sitting there now, right, in his office? How long has he got?
It's literally a question of days. So a preliminary injunction is generally decided within 20 days. It can be immediately appealed to the Court of Appeals, then to the Supreme Court. All of the courts are required to act quickly on this type of case. So this is not one that'll just land on the docket to be heard and decided in July. No.
Oh,
This will be
okay.
decided on the emergency docket very quickly because of the nature of the proceeding. Now,
Okay,
obviously, the
gotcha.
Supreme Court can say, hey, the lower court's right. We'll just reject, we won't hear it, or we'll, wait for a year to decide. But that would mean ultimately that they're affirming the preliminary injunction. And that's what's going up. Are the facts of this case so compelling that the court can issue this extraordinary relief? And remember, there is no question that the executive has violated the law. There is no question that what they are doing is undermining 50 years of whistleblower rights and essentially sabotaging the only office of the federal government designed and required to accept confidential whistleblower complaints to an independent special counsel who also has the authority to take action to protect that whistleblower from being fired and harassed. The only office. So all of this is uncontested. What is
this is a red alert, isn't it? It is a red alert.
Red alert.
No, I've got to ask you this before you leave, and I understand you're very busy, and I am so thrilled you came on our program. But you've represented whistleblowers throughout the world. You've represented whistleblowers under oligarchs. You've represented whistleblowers in countries that have no rights. What happens to us, whistleblowers, if this man, who's the Office of Special Counsel, Hampton Dellinger, if he is silenced, where would whistleblowers go?
Well, that is a wonderful question. The United States has been the beacon. It's had the best whistleblower
Right.
laws of any country in the world. Other countries are envious of it. They model off it. Some of them actually have the audacity to pass a decent whistleblower law.
Mhm.
But but we have set the standard. We have been the leader of recognizing that whistleblowers are fundamental to fighting corruption. They're absolutely essential to the detection of hidden frauds, detection of white collar crimes.
Mhm.
We've done it. We've been the beacon. So this office was the first office established under law in the world for
Mhm.
whistleblowers to have a safe place to go to raise a concern and to have a special counsel watching their back. The first one in the world. If
Mhm.
this one gets knocked out, and the courts say that under the US Constitution, whistleblowers have no ability to go to an independent office. The ramifications are so catastrophic, it's almost impossible to imagine.
So the bottom line, Stephen, is if this man is taken out, they don't have anywhere else to turn when the push comes to shove.
Yeah, it's called just jump off the cliff. Confidentiality, critical. There've always been whistleblowers who've stepped forward,
Mm-hmm.
sacrificed themselves. But the
Mm-hmm.
problem with that process is although they may achieve something, they send a massive chilling effect because everyone else says, yeah, they may be right. Maybe they even win a case, but God, what they went through, I will never go through that. No one in their right mind would. So
Right.
interesting. So a whistleblower who steps forward where there are no real legal protections, the outcome of their case is almost irrelevant because the chilling effect is massive. People will not go through that hell.
Right. I fully understand what you're saying. I fully understand what you're saying. And if it hadn't been for you, I would have never made it. And just think, not all these protections were there when you and I started, and that was a long time ago. But I
So,
look at
so
the
what's
people.
fascinating about your case, Jane,
Yeah.
is that so people understand she was an FBI agent and she raised major concerns and she was fired. She was put on the notice of proposed removal to be removed for raising concerns to an
Hmm.
inspector general.
That's right.
And we fought it out and we won. But guess what happened from her case? Congress actually passed laws to protect FBI whistleblowers. Now, the problem is even those laws will be undermined because
Mm,
under that law, an FBI whistleblower can go to the Office of Special Counsel and
right.
raise a confidential complaint to someone who's obligated under law to maintain that confidentiality and be independent. So the law, and when they wrote that law, that was the assumption. The assumption was this is America. You can go to an independent office and
Right.
protect it. Once that's
Right.
down, it's going to hit every federal employee. So the very law that Jane got passed gets a bullet through the heart.
We're not going to allow that to happen, Stephen. It's just, it's too critical. It's too critical. So write your congressman, raise hell, do whatever you can. I wish I was in Washington. I'd be out there picketing. Um, I
But
just, I just think
Minnesota,
people
call
have
your
to.
people, call your
Yep.
senators, call your congressmen. Writing is great. Get on the NWC webpage, whistleblowers with an s.org. Send in the emails, make the calls. But you all know, you can just look it up in 2 seconds. Go to congress.gov, stick in your email, you'll find out who all your representatives are. They will listen to you. They will listen to their constituents. There needs to be essentially an uproar. They have to know there will be political consequences if they destroy whistleblower rights, period.
Okay. So we'll have people put it on their media, social media, whatever kind of media they have, podcast, written word, slam it out there. Who should they put in the area where it should go? Just to your congressperson, or should they have a hashtag or something
There's
else?
two
Or
senators and their member of Congress right now. I don't
okay,
think the White House will listen. I don't, but your representative will, every member of Congress is up for election in 2 years or less. And the senators, 1/3 of them will be up. So they will listen. It's their jobs too, but only if they think their job is on the line.
yeah,
And you know what? If they facilitate and don't stop this catastrophe, their job should be on the line. Now, we don't take positions on political candidates.
right,
We are
right.
nonpartisan. We have backed very high-profile Republican whistleblowers, Democratic whistleblowers, and what we've seen through the years that whichever political party holds the White House tends to hate whistleblowers. That's why this is such a shock. Yes, the White House is from the very beginning don't like whistleblowers, be it Bill Clinton and Linda Tripp, be it Joe Biden and the people blowing the whistle on his son, be it Richard Nixon, whomever. But that's why they made the office independent, because they knew that's what occurs. And although other presidents have been very angry, whistleblowers, they've fired them, they've been mean, but none of them have ever sought to wipe out the Office of Special Counsel. None until now.
Now, hard to believe. Hard to believe. Stephen Kohn, whistleblower, lawyer extraordinaire. I'd say superstar, but I know you're too bashful for that. But you've represented every known whistleblower since the beginning of time, so you deserve that title. Thank you for coming on Whistleblower of the Week. Thank you for supporting whistleblowers. You've been there since the beginning. You've been responsible for some of these laws and policies that exist today for whistleblowers. We thank you, and thank you for coming on and explaining how critical this is. Can you give us your last thoughts?
Well, let's start this first, Jane. Thank you so much. You are a whistleblower who has stood the test of time, who's won her cases, but has stood behind hundreds of other whistleblowers. Your podcast serves a great public service. I just want to emphasize something. Whistleblowers with an S.org. Now, this is, if you can make a donation of any sort, this is a movement. This is a campaign. This is not going to end now. We need your support. But right now, we need you to call your senators and congressmen and forcibly and loudly tell them that this is a litmus test, that if they don't take action to protect this office, to protect the right of whistleblowers to make a confidential disclosure of violations of law to an independent person who is not subject to the whim of whoever sits in the White House, that they are not going to be supported. This is a litmus test for democracy itself. That's, I think, sums it up, Jane. We are at the edge.
We are at the edge, and I have to ask, Stephen, because I've been asked, are we going to have a National Whistleblower Day this year
Yes.
in July?
Always.
Yes.
The founders did it during the height of the revolution. The founders did it when if they lost that revolution, would have been hung for treason. If the founders can do it in the middle of a war, we can do it in the middle of a whistleblower campaign. We will do it. We will push. We will not stop.
And we'll win.
And we
Thank you,
will
Stephen
win.
Kohn, Kohn and Colapinto, whistleblower attorney extraordinaire. Thank you for your time.